Thank you. Thank you. No, please sit. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the beautiful Dior and the historic Powers Auditorium. I want to thank everyone for attending the 2017 inaugural event on behalf of the Combined Jewish Appeal. Tonight we have a wonderful program lined up for you. We have a little bit of seriousness, a little bit of comedy, and a lot of information and examples of what makes our Youngstown Jewish Federation so effective and necessary and endearing to the hearts of everyone in this community who have been impacted by it over these many years in any variety of ways. I know I've spoken in the past about it, and I know most of you or your family members have been impacted by this wonderful organization. I would like to give a special welcome to our speakers, Michelle Hirsch and Joel Chasnoff. My wife Kim and I had the pleasure a couple days ago on Sunday of seeing Joel speak at the FIDF, or the Friends of the Israel Defense Forces annual event in Cleveland, and he was extremely charming and very funny and witty, but more importantly, he was very effective at raising a lot of money for the soldiers that defend Israel, and I was honored to be in that room with him that night. And while I just met Michelle this evening, Andy Lipkin has told me quite a bit about her and what a dynamic and impactful speaker Michelle is, and I know both will be wonderful tonight, and I very much look forward to hearing from both of them soon. I want to recognize and thank my fellow campaign co-chair, Sam Shapiro, for not only being an asset to our community through all of his board service and all the different committees that he's on, but he's also one of the most insightful and generous and compassionate and interesting individuals that I've ever met. And even though he's a good talker, so somehow he got out of speaking tonight. I don't know how that happened, which of course means I didn't. I have to be up here, and that's okay. But seriously, he has shown me through example over the years the wisdom of taking the high road, the benefit of not losing your temper, which I'm still working on, and has refined my views on philanthropy and charity and in general just on living generously. Sammy, I love you like a brother, and I'm grateful for you for just being Sammy. I would like to thank Dr. Mark Perlman for being our 2017 campaign chair-elect. Mark, thank you so much for stepping up into a leadership role at the Federation and for your dedication to this unbelievable organization. This campaign is in very, very capable hands for next year, and I know that you will find this role as fulfilling and as gratifying as Sammy as I have found it for the last 7 years. And on a personal side note, and I speak for Sammy, I'm sure, if there's any way we can help in any way, and I don't think you'll need our help, you're very capable, but please know we are there in any way to assist you however we can. I want to thank Susan and Bruce Epstein for co-chairing this beautiful event tonight. There is a lot of planning and organizing and arranging that goes into this evening, and as a result, as you can see out there, the evening turned out beautiful, so thank you for that. I would also like to recognize the esteemed attorney Alan Kretzer for his wisdom and his leadership and guidance as Federation President, and also to President-elect Richard Marlin. Rick, you have humongous shoes to fill, and I know that you will be terrific, and we wish you luck in that future endeavor. Lastly, I want to personally thank Sarah and Andy for your inexhaustible efforts to make every aspect of our Federation first class, and for the passion that you have for our community and for Israel, for all things Federation, actually for all things Jewish. I mean, I can't have a 5-minute conversation about sports with Andy without him mentioning Sandy Koufax. I mean, Jewish. But Sarah and Andy, you are true assets, and everyone in this room and in this community owe you a great, big, sincere thank you. I want to I'm nervous. Last time doing this. It gets harder every year. I can't understand it. Every year it's harder. I want to thank the Thomas's Family Endowment of the Federation for their generosity and financial assistance to support this program tonight. as well as the numerous, and I mean numerous, other programs and organizations and just things that they so graciously support. They are a true godsend to this community, and we really appreciate everything your family has done. It is my pleasure to report that we begin the 2017 campaign with approximately $280,000 in PACE funds, which are monies left by people in perpetuity to maintain their campaign gifts. Bruce Sherman, who wears many hats, among them he's past campaign chair, former Federation president, and current endowment chair, would ask that you consider creating a lasting legacy so that your generosity and commitment to our community, to Israel, and to Jews around this world can continue well into the future. And it's very important, and I hope that you consider this, and Andy can of course give you more details. So, it is now my honor to call President-elect Richard Marlin to the podium to introduce our first speaker. Rick met Michelle Hirsch in July on a mission to Kiev and Israel on the Financial Resource Development Mission through Jewish Federations of North America. Please help me in welcoming Rick.
I wasn't about to jump up on the stage like Jeff did, because then somebody would have to pick me up, and that's not an easy task. As Jeff mentioned, this last July, Andy Lipkin and I joined 100 others on the Jewish Federation of North America Federation Resource Development Mission to the Ukraine and Israel. This was a fantastic experience. To see in action all the great things that the funds that we raise through our campaign do for our fellow Jews overseas. Throughout the trip, we heard from and met a young lady from Cleveland, Michelle Hirsch. Not until the second or third day did I realize that Michelle was originally from Akron, grew up in BBYO, and did so with my daughter-in-law Allison's sister, if you can figure all that out, Melissa Salentone, with whom they are great friends. In fact, the one thing we had to do was send a selfie to Melissa so she could see us together. We immediately had a bond beyond geography and faith. I think we're now mishpucha. As the week proceeded, Andy and I agreed that we need to bring this dynamic and inspiring young leader to Youngstown. Just very briefly, Michelle has been actively involved in the Cleveland Jewish community for several years. If this is up to date, she currently serves on the Jewish Federation of Cleveland's Board of Trustees. She's also co-chair of the Federation's Lion of Judah Society. Michelle is a former Young Leadership Division Board Chair and is the 2011 recipient of the Ambassador Milton A. and Rosalind Z. Wolf Young Campaigner of the Year Award, which recognizes leadership, dedication, and hard work by a young leader on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Cleveland's campaigns for Jewish needs. Her involvement extends beyond the Federation. She serves on the board of Jewish Family Service Association, or the Mandel Jewish Day School. She's also involved with the University Hospitals of Cleveland, Cleveland Rainbow and Children's Hospital, and the Jewish Education Center of Cleveland, among others. Michelle graduated with an MBA from Case Western Reserve's Weatherhead School of Management and serves as Senior Vice President of the Brunswick Companies. If you've ever wondered where the next generation of Jewish leadership will come from, sit back, relax, as you hear from the co-chair of JFNNA's National Young Leadership Cabinet and my friend, Michelle Hirsch.
Thank you, Rick, and thanks to all of you for welcoming me here today. As National Young Leadership co-chair, I have the honor of traveling the country for the next year. There was an on-deck situation, so it's really an 18-month thing. You know, it's never really a year when someone gets you to sign up for something. But I've traveled to all of these different communities, and when I got the ask to come to Youngstown, I knew it was only an hour drive, and I didn't have to get on a plane, and I didn't have to convince my 4- and 2-year-old that I was going on another Sedaka trip, and I would miss bedtime, or have to stop at the gas station around the corner to get the M&Ms, because that's really all he cares about. You know? But what makes this trip so special, beyond the short commute, is when I got here earlier this afternoon, Andy gave me a tour. And coming from Akron, and you'll hear in my story, everything just hit home, because Youngstown and Akron are so similar. And as we were walking around and meeting all of the people, and I was hearing about the 1,400 men, women, children, cats, and dogs that are your Jewish community, I was in awe. Because I see a lot of small communities, and I know the struggles, and I know the resources, and I know how hard it is to do what you do. And you guys do it, and you do it really well. And I was beyond impressed with all the different facilities and the people, and the fact that Andy knows everyone's name. Literally, from the cook in the kitchen to the kids in the preschool. I mean, he literally knows everyone's name. So I just want you to know how lucky all of you are to not only have such a strong, vibrant community, but also people who care and who really give of themselves and so selfless. And Sarah's been amazing. So just know that when it comes to how you rank amongst other communities across the country, I am in awe. And you should all be very proud. So tonight, I'm going to open up and share a story with all of you. It's my story, and it's the reason that I do what I do. It's the reason that I choose Federation to be my #1 charitable donation. My guess, well, my hope, is that something in this story will resonate with each one of you. Something in this story will most likely be part of your own story. So I invite you to just sit and listen, but really listen. And not just with your ears, but with your heart. My grandpa and my dad have a saying in our business. You dance with the person that took you to the dance. You stay loyal, and you remember where you came from. I'm just a kid from Akron, Ohio. My parents grew up in the Jewish neighborhood. They were in the same kindergarten class, high school sweethearts, and then they got married right out of college. Before they knew it, they had 4 girls under 4. They went for the boy, but got twin girls. And the Stein girls became an official thing. Growing up, Akron's Jewish community was small but mighty. Very similar to Youngstown. Every Jew knows every Jew, and there's a solid chance that you're probably related, right? Yeah. One synagogue of each denomination, and all the standard Jewish community staples resided in one central location. Mine's White Pond Drive, yours is Gypsy Lane. Pretty much anything and everything Jewish existed in one convenient spot. The JCC, our preschool, day school, day camp, even Jewish family services and our senior assisted living facilities. If you were Jewish in Akron, this was the place to be. The Stein girls spent more hours of our lives on White Pond Drive than we did on our own street. My grandparents and my parents were very involved in the Jewish community, always going to meetings, donating, and chairing events. I grew up with phrases like, when you share, you get more. And the more you give, the more you get. Giving back to the Jewish community was just part of who they were. And as a result, it's part of who we are, part of who I am. Family was and still is everything. When we all get together, it's always a huge to-do. Shabbat dinners, Hanukkah parties, and Passover seders. We are never less than 30 people deep. And yet, with all the tumult and what sounds like a glorious childhood, there was one member of our family that didn't quite fit in. Meet Uncle Kenny. My mom's older brother was never actually diagnosed with a specific mental disability, but he wasn't all there. My grandmother, who we affectionately called Honey, never spoke about his condition. Knowing what we know now, Uncle Kenny was most likely on the autism spectrum. He repeated himself a lot, and he would interject awkwardly in conversations. My papa was Israeli, and his tough love personality would not allow Uncle Kenny to use his handicap to hold him back. He even graduated from high school through a special track, but he did it. My mom says that the other kids at school would make fun of him, call him a retard, and even beat him up. But Uncle Kenny was strong, and he continued to make a life for himself. He even got a job and lived in his own apartment. When I was 8 years old, my papa passed away, and Uncle Kenny could not handle the emotional stress of losing his dad, his number one fan. He crumbled emotionally, and he could no longer function individually and independently. He could no longer live on his own. So he moved back home in with Honey, and together they supported one another. As a little girl, I didn't really understand why Uncle Kenny was different. I was annoyed by his constant repeating and his random outbursts. I was embarrassed, and I ignored him. To be polite, no one ever spoke about Uncle Kenny's condition. So I naively thought that he didn't have to be that way, as if he almost did it on purpose. After college, I moved home, and Honey got sick. We had some great conversations the last few weeks of her life. Memories of her childhood, stories of her parents from the old country, falling in love with my papa. But the week before she died, we had one conversation that I will never, ever forget. Michelle, today I want to talk to you about your Uncle Kenny. For the first time, she shared the struggles of learning that her precious child was special. The hardships of a society that would not accept him, and how she wanted to talk about it, but never felt like she could. In tears, she looked right at me. He has such a big heart, a gute neshama, a kind soul in Yiddish. He loves you girls so much. You know, he's a human being. And I just wish that the world could see what I see. I was so ashamed. I should have seen the human being inside and not the disability. Uncle Kenny just wanted to be part of our lives, be included. The following week, when Honey passed away, Uncle Kenny's world crumbled again. But in preparation for this day, Honey had worked with my parents to make sure that her home was turned into a group home for Kenny. Within a few months, Uncle Kenny had 3 roommates, all similarly high functioning, and a full-time staff living in my grandparents' home. My mom became Uncle Kenny's new best friend. He called our house at exactly 6:30 every single morning. It was the perfect alarm clock, and he left the same message on our answering machine. Good morning, everybody. It's 65 degrees and sunny, very, very sunny, announcing the day's forecast, and then he'd always end it with, "Let's make it a great day," every single morning. Through the group home, a whole new world opened up, and Uncle Kenny had a whole new social scene, and he was loving life. I moved to Chicago, reconnected with a nice Jewish boy from my BBYO days, and together we moved back to Cleveland, just 30 miles north of White Pond Drive. I got my MBA, joined my family's insurance business, and then shortly after, we got engaged. Although Uncle Kenny's health was failing, he made it to our wedding. In a wheelchair, but he was there. The next morning at the brunch, I remember making my way towards his table. I sat down beside his wheelchair, and he was so emotional, he could barely get the words out. He was gushing about how beautiful the night was and how proud he was that he got to stay the entire night and just watch from the sidelines. He then asked, with his Kodak disposable camera in hand, if he could take a picture with his married niece. I remember crouching down beside his wheelchair to take that picture, giving him a big kiss on the cheek, and telling him how lucky I was to have such an amazing uncle like him. A few months later, Uncle Kenny died peacefully, holding my mom's hand. He was 55. I helped my mom clean out his room the following week. When I walked in, I froze. His room was bare. He didn't have a whole lot of stuff. Just a navy blue comforter on his bed and 2 white pillows. But there, behind his dresser, were pictures of me and my sisters, scotch taped to his mirror. Pictures of us in tutus at our dance recital, covered in dirt from our softball games, even our bat mitzvah pictures with braces on our teeth. And at the end of the row was me at my wedding brunch, crouching down beside him in his wheelchair. It was a scotch-taped Steingirl Wall of Fame. For the first half of my life, until that conversation with my honey, I ignored my Uncle Kenny. Yet he could not have been more proud to be my uncle, part of our family, the entire time. All he ever wanted was to be included. Years later, when I became chair of Cleveland's Young Leadership Division, our first community service project was to plant flowers and build Adirondack chairs for the front porch of a Jewish Family Services, funded by our Jewish Federation, group home. Group home? Like my Uncle Kenny's? I had no idea that Federation supported group homes. The residents joined us outside, and I was immediately drawn to one man, Howard. He stood in the corner, and he was hiding from the crowd, but I made my way over, and I asked if he would be my buddy for the afternoon and help me build this chair. Howard quietly nodded, and we got to work. He wasn't a big talker. In fact, he said not one word the entire time, but we worked together in silence. And I encouraged him, and I praised him, and I tried to make him smile. At the end of the afternoon, I asked Howard if he would help me test out our newly built chairs. Take a seat. We had just spent 3 hours in silence, but out of nowhere, Howard turns to me. He grabs my hand, and his mouth opened. Thank you, Michelle. I love our new chairs, and every day I will sit in this chair and think about how special you made me feel today. This was my Federation aha moment. Because you see, for as long as I can remember, my love for the Jewish community and dedication to being involved centered around me and my family. The desire for kids like me to have the same Jewish experiences, the White Pond Drive. I knew money went to help those in need, but they didn't really ever have a face or a name. It was there, on that day, that I realized the work of Federation that gives these people a face and a name. They make it possible for Howard to live in this beautiful group home with an extended Jewish family and a robust social life. My donation is not just about funding people like me, creating White Pond Drives. My dollars are helping people like Howard, like Uncle Kenny, live like the human beings that they are, with dignity and with comfort. My gift ensures that Howard has the best life possible. Because where would he be without this group home? With our dollars, Howard and the others throughout the world needing special care, they will never be ignored. They will never be pushed aside. They will never not feel like they are part of our Jewish community, part of our Jewish family. Federation gives people like Howard a chance to not only survive, but to thrive, to live life with joy and with purpose. Here in Youngstown, I saw the group home. I know that your Jewish Family Services, which receives funding from your Federation dollars, is working with this amazing group of people in your backyard every single month. I had the honor of speaking with Ken Bilecki about the Our Gang program that takes 40 individuals with developmental disabilities every month to do fun things. Your dollars. Just a few weeks ago, this group hit up the bocce ball court, and I heard it was a very serious competition. To me, there is no better case for federated giving. I'm never going to know about all the Howards, but Federation does. They know about every single need in our Jewish community, in Israel and overseas. Whether it's mental disabilities, struggles to find shelter, food, or safety, Federation responds. As my honey said, I just wish that the world could see what I see. Federation not only sees it, we do something about it. We take the most vulnerable, the ones hiding in the corner, and we embrace them. We include them. We give them love. We give them the ability to love life. As you heard, I had the honor of attending the FRD mission in Ukraine and Israel with Andy and Rick. And it was there that I met Dobra. Dobra is 94 years old. She's a Holocaust survivor. And she's been homebound for 4 years in her 4-story walk-up. Now I've heard about these stories. But to actually be there, to walk up those stairs, to sit on her couch and listen to her story with the biggest smile on her face, it was the most incredible experience. Dobra's caretaker, who's funded through our dollars, served as her translator. Halfway through the home visit, Dobra pulls out this envelope, and she hands each one of us a handmade card. she had cut out photos from a postcard and then glued them to a card that her aide had brought from a local craft store. She proudly handed out all the cards to each one of us sitting there. There were 5 of us. And she pointed to the words in Russian, with tears in her eyes. The aide's eyes also swelled up. And then she shared what Dobra had just said. She said, "These are my thank you cards for each of you. I'm alive because of you." The Russian words on the card is an old proverb, and it says, "If we all hold hands together, we will never be lonely." Last week, I had the honor of visiting the Houston Jewish community after the aftermath of Hurricane Harvey. The destruction is insurmountable. The JCC, preschools, day schools, the largest conservative synagogue in Houston, they all need to be replaced. But the resilience of this Jewish community and the overwhelming positive attitude that they will overcome it all together is truly inspiring. But it's because the Houston Federation was so strong before the storm, the Federation had the ability to quickly jump into action, and it was the first to respond of all their institutions in Houston. Because our national federation system is so strong, all of our Jewish communities outside of Houston were there to act fast and immediately provide resources to help respond. Construction crews, mold remediation, supplies, hot kosher meals, even child psychologists, because these kids, they can't handle when it rains. They think this is going to happen every time it rains. This is what we do before, during, and after. We are always there for each other. As I was touring the day school, I noticed this poster on the wall under the dehumidifier system that could not be truer for Houston and throughout the rest of the world. Accept what you cannot change, but change what you cannot accept. We have no choice in where natural disasters will land or why people are born with certain disabilities. But we do all have the choice to pick up the pieces and simply make life better. I give my gift with pride because I know that my dollars create white pond drives throughout the world for children just like my own, fulfilling our family motto of loyalty by remembering to dance with the person that took you to the dance. But I also give my gift with purpose because my gift gives human beings like Howard and Dobra and the people of Houston the opportunity to dance, period. My gift says that no matter where they call home, every human being is precious, every person counts. It's been my honor to share my story with all of you, the reason I do what I do. I'm just a kid from Akron, Ohio, who brings White Pond Drive with me wherever I go. Akron and Youngstown, we are so very much the same. Jews all working together to simply do good at home and throughout the world, to give our children a strong Jewish identity and to be proud of where they came from. My 4-year-old son, Matthew, was recently interviewed by a reporter from a local paper at our Federation's Hanukkah event. Matthew was so proud to wake up that morning, empty out his and his little sister's tzedakah boxes, to put all of his monies in a Ziploc bag and march it right into our Federation to hand over his $24.17. When the reporter asked Matthew why he gave away all his monies to charity instead of saving up to buy a cool new toy, He responded, completely uncoached, I swear, without any hesitation and with the biggest smile on his face, to make sad people happy. My husband and I just looked at each other, and our hearts literally jumped out of our chests. He's 4, and he gets it. But what's interesting about his response, to make sad people happy, I had to share with him that together through our work and our time and our dollars, let's not forget that we are also making happy people happy. We bring joy, we bring pride, solidarity. We are one giant family that comes together in times of need, but also in times of celebration. As a Jewish people, we all just get it. Tonight, I'm proud to be amongst so many strong, passionate, and involved leaders in this room like you who truly understand. You wouldn't be here if you didn't. Together as the Youngstown community, we know it is our responsibility to recognize our Jewish heritage, to celebrate our values, and to be inclusive of those who tend to get overlooked, human beings with faces and names. So in honor of White Pond Drive, Honey, Uncle Kenny, Howard, Dobra, my own kids, the kids of Houston, and the Jewish community of Youngstown, and every Gitta Neshama throughout the world, let tonight be our alarm clock, because he's shouting from heaven. Good evening, everybody. It's 70 degrees and sunny. Very, very sunny. Let's make it a great night. Thank you. So before we move on, Andy and I were talking before the event about Houston and the things that I saw, the people that I met, and just the Jewish institution there that is in so much dire need. And while the annual campaign obviously is all of our #1 priority, as Jews, as a family, as an extended family, I hope and we hope that you will also consider, even if it's a small amount, giving a little bit to Houston. Because if it was Youngstown, I guarantee you Houston would do the same. JFNA has put together a video, very short, of what's going on in Houston, and at this time we will now play it. And there's a local fund set up that Andy can, through JFNA, and we will make sure that all of you get that information. Honestly, even $18, these people, they need your help. So thank you.
Items ordered by the national leadership Let's again thank Michelle Hirsch for such a moving and thoughtful presentation. Okay. We're Bruce and Susan Epstein, it says right there. Susan said I didn't have to introduce us because most of you know us. As co-chairs for this event, we have the privilege of introducing tonight's keynote speaker, Joel Chasnoff. It's fitting that the Youngstown Area Jewish Federation hold a celebration of Jewish humor in this venue. The anchor of this complex, the Powers Auditorium, was originally a Warner Brothers theater. It's the Warner Brothers theater that brought us thousands of comedy classics, movies such as Arsenic and Old Lace and Blazing Saddles. It also introduced us to characters like Daffy Duck, Porky Pig, and Yosemite Sam. But before the Warner Brothers went to Hollywood, they were members of the Youngstown area Jewish community. Tonight, our keynote speaker, Joel Chasnoff, adds another page to our local history of Jewish humor. Mr. Chasnoff grew up in the Chicago area, actually in Evanston, Illinois, and then followed the traditional path to comedy. He obtained an Ivy League education and then joined the Israeli army. Joel's an author whose book, The 188th Crybaby Brigade, a skinny Jewish kid from Chicago fights Hezbollah, a memoir, chronicled his service with the Israeli Defense Forces. He contributed to the Big Book of Jewish Humor 25th Anniversary Edition and contributed to The Complete Idiot's Guide to Jokes. Currently, he's co-authoring The Balbusta Way, a Mediterranean cookbook. Joel's a very experienced stand-up comedian. He's performed over 1,000 times in 9 countries. He toured with the USO and entertained American troops. He has opened for such acts as Jon Stewart and Louis Black, is a frequent guest on NPR, has appeared on ABC, NBC, and Israeli late night television. He was also a very pleasant dinner companion this evening. This evening, Joel Chasnoff appears here. Please join us in welcoming to the stage Joel Chasnoff.
Well, good evening, everyone. Boy, oh boy, I think we all cried profusely for about 20 minutes, then laughed hysterically for 20 minutes. I don't know about you guys, but I'm exhausted. But we have to get a little serious here. First of all, it's my pleasure to be your 2018 chairman for the campaign. It's absolutely my pleasure. And Joel, thank you very much. Where did he go? Okay. Joel, thank you very much for an evening full of laughter and joy. You know, in these days of troubled times, here and around the world, your humor and wit, coupled with your compassion for Judaism, is refreshing, and it certainly uplifts our spirit and soul. And Michelle, thank you very much for sharing with us such a compelling story, a compelling insight into your and your family's story. Uncle Ken, Howard, and Dobra. You know, I know a little Russian. Do you know what Dobra means, the definition of Dobra? The translation of Dobra is good. It's kind. Am I right, Irina? This is what defines Jewish Federation, because all of us here, we're all good-hearted, we're kind, and we're generous to our fellow Jews locally, around the world, and in the country. So thank you very much. Sarah Wilczek, once again, you did a super job in organizing tonight's event. Your commitment and dedication to Jewish Federation and your leadership in the community is greatly admired by all of us. Thanks to Susan Schwabel-Epstein and her husband Bruce for co-chairing this 2017 inaugural event. Your diligence and efforts are greatly appreciated. Andy, or should I address you as Coach Andy? In terms that you might best understand, for the past many years, you've always stepped up at the plate for Federation. And even when you've been thrown a curveball, you have been able to adjust, occasionally change your stance, and swing for the fences. After all, Andy, this is hardball. This is Major League. This is Jewish Federation. President-elect Rick Marlin, you've been president for so many organizations in the past that we can be rest assured that you, together with Andy, will work hard for the continued success of the Youngstown Jewish Federation in the next coming years. And a special thanks to the 2017 campaign co-chairs Sam Shapiro and Jeff Simon for their past 7 years of leadership and dedication to the Federation, the campaign, and to the community. Sam is relieved that he doesn't have to speak tonight. But after all, your and Jeff's actions speak for themselves, as you both are tremendous inspirations to our community. I want to get a little serious here for a couple of minutes. I don't usually share this with people, but perhaps tonight is a good night to do so. Everyone in the audience tonight has in some way utilized the services of Jewish Federation and its agencies sometime in their lives. I certainly have, and I could not be any more thankful to all the agencies. You see, many years ago, I was very grateful to the Jewish Family Services, whose counselors, under the guidance of Alvin Weisberg, tremendously helped out one of my sons. We're going to get to stories like you, Michelle, who helped out one of my sons when he was but 5 years old. He was suffering at the time, let's call it an acute depression, as you might imagine, as he was watching his mother become sicker and weaker every day until she passed on. I can't thank Alvin and his staff for helping my son and the rest of the family get through those terrible days. The JCC was a center of activities for my kids, be it winter activities or summer camp. It certainly made my life easier, and it certainly enriched their childhood as it does to all of our kids. And with this, I must include the JCC daycare, which I believe was in its earlier years, whose staff members took my youngest son under their wings when he was but 4 years old. After being dropped off at the daycare at 7:15 in the morning and being picked up by myself at 5:30 every evening of the week, they would walk him by his hand to kindergarten class, watching after him at Kids Place in the afternoon, understanding and giving the needed compassion to a 4-year-old who did not have a mother to come home to. Akiva Academy, whose teachers afforded my kids, as well as many of yours, the highest standard of education, and they still do. And every morning, as soon as my kids hopped onto the school bus, my mind was at peace as I left for work, knowing that they were in safe hands all day. And of course, the education they received has helped them to become very successful in their adult lives. And I would be remiss if I did not include what Federation does for Jews in Israel and around the world, as it did in the late 1980s when it helped to bring Russian Jews to America and to Youngstown. One of those whom I met in 1997, and Irina and I have been together now for 20 years, married for almost 16. Thank you, Irina. Thank you for putting up with me and a lot of my crap. It wasn't my intention to get so personal and up close. But the point is that Federation is here to serve us, our families, and our family and friends in Israel and around the world. And we are all grateful for what it does. Of course, there is Heritage Manor, which through the guidance of Gary Weiss has earned 5-star ratings for their staffing and service, one of the very few homes in the state to be able to achieve this highest star rating. And finally, there is JCRC, where Bonnie Birdman for many years has worked extremely hard with our elected politicians to make sure that they understand our Jewish interests. This is why Federation supports these programs and agencies. This is why we not only give generously to Federation, but we have always increased our pledges every year. As chairman for the 2018 campaign, I hope and expect that 2018 is a most successful year for our campaign. I urge you not only to pledge, but if at all possible, to increase your pledges from last year, as I have done. We all know, I know, the stock market went up today. The stock market is close to its all-time highs. So perhaps you might be able to take that into account and use some of your gains to help support and possibly increase your pledges to Jewish Federation this coming year. And again, let's hope for a successful campaign. Please join us in the pavilion for a dessert reception and a meet and greet with our speakers. And as Joel said, if you're interested in purchasing his books or his book, copies will be available. I thank you all for coming tonight. L'Shana Tova. May we all have a healthy and successful New Year. Thank you.